Good day, gentlemen. Welcome to the MGTOW solution. This video is going to be the first chapter from the book, which is intended to be kind of a basic introduction for the new guy who doesn't really know anything about the topic. But even if you've been red-pilled for years, you might pick up something new. At any rate, it never hurts to get a different perspective. So with all that said, I'll just go ahead and get into it. Thanks for listening. This book began as a simple exercise in self-evaluation. My initial goal was merely to review some of my history by writing it out journal style for my own benefit. However, this quickly grew to include topics beyond my personal story. I soon realized that I had a lot to say, and before I knew it, my little project started to resemble a book. I had been exploring the online community known as the Manosphere for some time, and realized that while most of the content online was excellent, I wanted to dive a little deeper into topics I personally feel are important for men to understand. Stories such as mine may be helpful, but they don't go far enough in providing practical information that others can use. I also realized that there is a lot of information out there. You can get the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in MGTOW from YouTube alone. This has been a godsend for countless men trying to figure things out, namely, what the hell is the deal with women? But there's so much information, it can be hard to sort through it all, and the content is organized in a decidedly non-linear fashion. I thought it might be helpful to provide a more linear approach, with enough information for you to develop an understanding of the basics from a single source. I also know that people have different learning styles, and that some may enjoy reading books on topics of interest, as I do. However, at this point, there aren't many useful books on the topic of MGTOW, so here we are. My intent is to supplement the information already available and to provide my personal perspective. If you want more information or prefer a different style, by all means, seek out the resources that suit you. My history with women is fairly lengthy given my age. I'm 54. So I thought I'd provide an abbreviated version of my story here in a simple timeline format. The full story is in the appendix and probably worth a read if you're new to the MGTOW world. After all, I've turned my back on some aspects of society, and it may prove useful for readers to understand why. Then again, if you've read other men's stories, mine will be similar. Bad experiences with marriage and women in general, leading inevitably to MGTOW. So here's the short version. 1978 to 1985. Serial monogamy and one-night stands leading up to my first marriage. I was a typical young guy, chasing women as young guys do. 1985 to 1987. That was my first marriage, ending in divorce. We had a son, and my ex was awarded custody while I paid child support and had visitation. She monkey branched up to a wealthy real estate guy, but I didn't really care. I was just happy to be free from her. She ran that guy through the ringer 10 years later. 87 to 92. More serial monogamy and one-night stands. I didn't know it at the time, but I was in pump and dump mode, which is just what it sounds like. This approach is common amongst MGTOW who are willing to take some risk in order to continue having sex with women. 92 to 2000. That was the second marriage. I thought I had simply married the wrong woman the first time, but this marriage also ended in divorce due to her materialism and princess complex, among other things. She tried to ruin me in the divorce, but I obviously survived. I knew with certainty at this point that I would never get married again. 2000 to 2005, pump and dump mode. 2005 to 2010, I lived with a girlfriend, ultimately leaving mostly because I was the only one making any sacrifices in the relationship. This was an easy exit, thankfully. 2010 to present, pump and dump for a while, ultimately leading to MGTOW monk mode. Going monk means no sexual relations, but it's not as bad as it may sound. Not when you factor in all the drama and hassles that usually accompany simply getting laid. To say nothing of the risks, which will be discussed shortly. I probably won't stay in monk mode indefinitely, but it's working very well for me in my current life circumstances. Some MGTOW may consider that last statement inconsistent. Either you're a monk or you're not. But it's not men going that other guy's way, it's MGTOW. My way happens to include adapting to changing situations. For those who disagree, I recommend they avoid going my way and find their own path. I'm retired Navy with a master's degree in exercise science. At present, I live in upstate New York, land of the free-roaming, chlamydia-infected wildebeest, partly why I'm in monk mode. Seriously, I've been around the world a couple of times and can honestly say that I've never seen so many flat-out disgusting women in one place. It's common for them to be carrying an extra 100 pounds. If a local girl is 20 pounds overweight, she's considered a hottie. Let's look at a definition of MGTOW, this one from MGTOW.com. MGTOW is a statement of self-ownership, where the modern man preserves and protects his own sovereignty above all else. It is the manifestation of one word, no, ejecting silly preconceptions and cultural definitions of what a man is, looking to no one else for social cues, refusing to bow, serve, and kneel for the opportunity to be treated like a disposable utility, and living according to his own best interests in a world which would rather he didn't. It should be noted that this is not an official definition because there's not an official MGTOW website, headquarters, or governing body. Ask 10 men who identify as MGTOW what it even means, and you'll get 10 different answers. The community is as loose-knit and diverse as you could imagine. There are no rules. There is no charter. Each individual follows his own path, as the name implies. Doing so is a radical departure from how most men think and live. The vast majority of men simply carry out the behaviors dictated for them by society because they've been socialized from a very young age to perform to certain standards. For example, men still get down on one knee before a woman and offer her diamonds in return for the privilege of being her man, and they don't give it a second thought. This demeaning custom is seen as romantic, but it clearly puts the man in a subservient position from day one. Yet there they go, bowing before the Great One while offering her material goods, with the promise of continuing to do so for the rest of their lives. This sets the tone for the duration of the relationship. We don't do things like that. When someone asks me what MGTOW is, I usually give them my own definition. MGTOW is the opposite of being pussy whipped. Simplistic, yes, but put in those terms, most men immediately understand. I'm not a psychologist, sociologist, or men's rights activist. By trade, I'm an exercise physiologist, currently working with some of America's finest combat troops, not coincidentally, all men. But it doesn't take any specialized training or advanced education to see what's going on in the world. In fact, you couldn't get such specialized training even if you wanted to. Just try to find a graduate program in men's studies. Most of us who have chosen this path did so after years or decades in the school of hard knocks. We learned through direct experience that we are better off simply not participating in the established program. Get married, have kids, work as hard as you can for as long as possible, then die. In my case, this realization took longer than I'd like to admit. I can't claim to have 30 years of experience as a MGTOW, but I do have 30 years of experience becoming a MGTOW. The way I figure it, my liberation happened in 2010 after my last real relationship ended. Prior to that, I was in the aforementioned school of hard knocks. Call it 30 years of research. Maybe I was a slow student, but in my mind, if I had gone MGTOW at age 20, then I wouldn't have much experience to draw from and wouldn't be enjoying the life I have today. Why did it take me so long to see the light? Because I bought into the notion that the key was simply to find the right woman. That's what everybody told me, and like many, I believed it. So I kept looking. Many of us probably did that, at least for a while. Although I had a lot of trouble with women during my younger years, I don't view that period as a wasted portion of my life. On the contrary, I had a lot going on besides women and have been fortunate enough to do a lot of interesting things along the way. That said, I could have been spared a lot of grief if I had the MGTOW resources that are available today. I simply didn't know any better because nobody explained to me what was really going on. That situation is changing, much to the benefit of men. The underlying concepts of MGTOW are nothing new. Men have been choosing to live their lives outside of traditional roles for as long as there have been traditions. They used to just call us confirmed bachelors. What has changed is the number of men taking this route, largely due to two factors: the internet and feminism. Online, men are able to share their experiences with other men around the world instantly. This has resulted in the rapid growth of MGTOW. It's impossible to estimate how many men consider themselves a part of this community because there's nobody tracking it. Plus, there are a lot of guys out there who have figured it out for themselves while not even being aware of the MGTOW phenomenon. That was the case with me for many years. I didn't initially go MGTOW, I just made a decision to stay single. The thing is, it doesn't matter. You don't need to join anything. There's no rank structure or hierarchy. There's no solemn oath, secret handshake, or rule book. We are not a lobbying group. We are not a political action group. We're simply men who have decided to look out for our own well-being. Some of our opponents argue that this way of life is selfish. I disagree. Most of us spent our prime years, or decades, being incredibly selfless in marriages because we were socialized to believe that was our role. In many cases, our efforts only resulted in escalating demands to be even more selfless. Earn more money. Work harder. Make more sacrifices. Be a good provider. We're not going to get those years back. All of these demands came from women whom we thought would at least appreciate us, if not actually love us. They didn't. They took us for granted, operating under the assumption that making them happy was our purpose in life, the natural order of things. If we're going to talk about selfishness, we should probably look at the women who drove the evolution of MGTOW in the first place. And what sacrifices did the women make? In most cases, few to none, unless you count being faithful, which may or may not have been the case. We gave, they took. Sound familiar? Ironically, as we continued working overtime in a vain attempt to satisfy our spouse's material needs, the complaints shifted from, "I want more stuff," to, "You're not around enough," and "All you do is work." Unless you're wealthy, this puts one in a true no-win situation. Work more and you'll fail to meet her emotional needs. Work less and her materialism won't be satisfied. It's almost as if it would take two men to make most women happy, one to earn the money and one to tend to her emotional and social needs. So we end up with what amounts to two full-time jobs. Is it any wonder that most guys are overworked and completely stressed out? Men tend to put up with this for a very long time in the hope that we can finally give her what she wants and make her happy. We demonstrate incredible patience in this regard. Marriage is hard work, we are told, and we must fulfill our obligations. Yet, we never get to the point where she's truly satisfied with her life. The demands are never ending. This has driven many of us to the point where we say to ourselves, "You know what? I'm not going to do that anymore." This is an entirely logical and reasonable reaction. When I look back at the things I used to put up with, I'm appalled at my own inability to recognize how much I was willing to tolerate. It took me a long time to figure out, but it's not because I lack intelligence. It's because I was trying to do the right thing according to somebody else's expectations. In hindsight, that was a mistake. There are countless horror stories of men being taken advantage of, if not outright abused by women, the social system, and the legal system. I've personally seen this over and over again, not only in my own life, but in the lives of other men. Honorable men, honest men, men with integrity, courage, and an unstoppable work ethic. I'll provide some examples of this, but all you have to do is a web search for men and divorce, and you'll quickly see the extent of the problem. I believe it's important to understand these issues while at the same time not letting them dominate our thinking. It isn't healthy or productive to dwell on past mistakes. After all, I have my freedom now. The problem is solved. It's infinitely better than the life I used to live. Most MGTOW would agree that freedom is the driving force behind this lifestyle, and so we're moving forward while never forgetting where we came from. You don't have to jump through hoops just because somebody put a bunch of hoops in front of you. Walk away. Sure, some people will chastise you, but they don't have your best interest at heart. Forget about finding your soulmate, someone to complete you, or other such nonsense. You're already complete. Anyone who tells you otherwise is either ignorant or attempting to manipulate you. It's a fantasy. It's a lie that's used to get you to behave in a manner that will benefit others, namely women. Women like to proclaim, "I want it all," while tossing their hair as though it's their birthright to have everything they want. But then they treat their men like shit and are subsequently baffled when they don't have one anymore. It's as though they honestly don't understand why we don't like being taken advantage of. You don't have to participate in this if you don't want to, and your life will probably be better if you don't. You might not get laid as much some of the time, but you also might get laid a lot more, if that's what you want. Think about all the married guys that aren't getting laid at all. They have no freedom, and they're not having sex, and it's costing them a fortune. This was illustrated nicely in a comic I saw years ago. A bride and groom are standing at the altar. The guy is thinking, "This is great. I'll get to have sex whenever I want." The woman is thinking, "This is great. I won't have to have sex anymore." Yeah, it's funny because it's true, but it's also disturbing because it's true. Women know that men need sex, and that this can drive a man to make some very bad decisions, including getting married. They use this to their advantage, as we'll see. And it's directly proportional to their hotness. It's no secret that hot chicks are higher maintenance than not-so-hot chicks. Think trophy wives. But it's also no secret that attractive women can get by on their appearance. Just look at the info babes and weather girls, hired in large part because they look good on camera. Pretty girls also make better pop stars, regardless of talent or lack thereof. If a woman is attractive, she'll usually get a pass in life because she will automatically be perceived to have value. She may be uneducated, unintelligent, lazy, and self-absorbed, yet when she meets a guy's friends or parents, they'll proclaim, "She's a keeper." As long as she has aesthetic appeal and is reasonably pleasant, that's enough. You don't see many dumb but pretty women working for a living at fast food joints, at least not for long. Either they hook themselves a man or get a cushy job in an office somewhere. In fairness, pretty boys can get by on their looks also, as evidenced by actors and male models, but it's far less common. The traditional gold standard for men to be considered keepers is to be a doctor or lawyer, in addition to being handsome, of course. This is because you have to be intelligent and disciplined to be a doctor or lawyer, but mostly because they tend to make a lot of money. Then again, any wealthy guy will do. We don't usually hear the term wealthy, though. Successful is subtler and helps camouflage the fact that this arrangement is in reality a form of long-term prostitution. That's right, when a woman marries a man for his money, she is a prostitute by definition. This, of course, is the gold digger phenomenon, which used to mean an exceptionally attractive young woman hooking up with a much older rich guy. The term has been expanded to mean any woman who is looking for a free ride from a man. Gold diggers are everywhere these days. Ironically, most aren't even attractive. Take any woman out on a date, and she will immediately begin evaluating your potential, not based on your character or personality, but on your financial status. She'll note what you drive, how you dress, where you live, and what kind of watch you wear. She'll inquire about what you do for a living, not because she's interested, but to estimate your income. This is done under the guise of getting to know you. If you've ever been brushed off after what you perceived to be a successful first date, chances are it was because you didn't pass her screening test. A lot of men figure this out and actually decide to play the game. They know that if they have a nice car and expensive clothes, they'll do better with the ladies. Hell, everybody knows this. So they purchase those things that will give them the edge they need to be successful with women. When women see this behavior, they know that the man in question understands the rules. He's driving a nice car to impress me, and he recognizes the importance of status symbols. Those are good signs. Of course, we often hear that not all women are like that, which is a common argument. So common, in fact, that it's a MGTOW acronym, NOWALT. Women are quick to claim they are different, as though saying so makes it true, but their actions speak much louder than their words. When a woman proclaims, "I'm not materialistic," you have to wonder why she feels compelled to say it. You can't rely on what they say. You have to look at their behavior. This behavior has dragged so many men down for so long that we've stopped listening to their endless denials and doublespeak. We're opting out of getting involved with people who are either delusional or lying to themselves. Doing this is a huge relief. It's on a par with graduating college, completing your military service, or paying off your debt, a true load off your shoulders. When you realize that less than 1% of women are NOWALTs and that the good ones have already been snatched up, you can abandon the pointless search for a needle in a haystack. It may be true that you can't paint all women with the same brush. Not all women are like that. But all of the women I've been seriously involved with have been. All of them. If one had not been, I might still be with her. A friend of mine once suggested that perhaps I was attracted to crazy women. But I didn't know they were crazy in the beginning, and neither did anyone else. It would probably be more accurate to say that I'm attracted to women, and that most women are crazy. Today I accept that, while also acknowledging that there are some exceptional sane women, just not very many. So why go MGTOW? Well, maybe I'll take a nap today. Then again, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll get up early and go to the gym. Maybe I'll go to a movie. Maybe I'll play my guitar for 2 hours. Maybe I'll buy a new guitar. Maybe I'll take up a new sport. Maybe I'll go out with the guys. Maybe I'll move to another state. Maybe I'll pursue a new career. Maybe I'll do whatever the hell I want without getting permission first. That's MGTOW. And while it may seem we focus on the negative, it is actually a very healthy, positive approach to life. All the negative stuff is just what got us here. It's true that if you peruse the MGTOW forums, you'll see an overwhelmingly negative attitude towards women. But this is because they have demonstrated overwhelmingly negative behavior, not because we have a shitty outlook. On the contrary, we're just calling a spade a spade. Stories like mine are the rule, and men are now discussing that fact. Guys often need to vent in the beginning, and the forums provide a venue to do so. It's hard to ignore the sense of injustice and unfairness when you've just been burned in divorce court, and getting it off your chest is probably a good idea. Those of us that have been through it understand. Once you're past the rage stage and can clearly see reality, women's antics become little more than a source of entertainment. Just Google woman temper tantrum for examples, or check out the women that are actually marrying themselves. Once you've confirmed that things are really as bad as you had feared, it's easy to flee the plantation and move on. I suspect that for every guy ranting on the forums, there are probably a dozen or more simply enjoying the freedom that comes from being single. The idea that a man must be in a relationship or there is something wrong with him is outdated and insulting. My ex once told me in a condescending tone that sometimes I acted like I would be better off alone, which was true because she was being a miserable bitch and driving me into debt. She was right, though. I'm far better off alone. I get this confirmed by married guys almost daily. "Let me check with the wife" usually means, "No, No, you can't do something that doesn't revolve around her. No, you can't buy yourself something with the money that you earned. No, you can't express your instincts. No, you can't just be a fucking man. These men often confide in me that they envy my lifestyle. Can't say I blame them. I've been in their shoes. All things considered, women are most useful for sex, and they know it as much as we do. So once a guy earns the privilege of accessing a woman's golden vagina by committing to her, she'll continue to exploit that asset to get what she wants. Sex will be doled out as a reward for appropriate behavior, kind of like dog treats. If he wants to get laid, he'd better toe the line regardless of what sacrifices he's already made to give her a better life. Over time, the sex becomes less frequent despite his loyalty and hard work. At the same time, she'll increase her demands on him until the negative consequences of the marriage outweigh the consequences of divorce. I know countless men who have been thoroughly screwed over in divorces. That's the expected outcome. If you're willing to take that chance because you think you found the right one, then go ahead and get married. Just understand that you're putting your balls on the chopping block. You'll be walking the high wire without a net. But I have a better idea. Go MGTOW and control your own life. You can still have sex, just don't get married. You can even be honest with women and tell them you're not looking for anything serious. You don't need to lie or manipulate them. They'll still fuck you because in their minds you'll fall madly in love with them once they do. Just be prepared for some drama when they realize it isn't happening. Then move on. And don't get sperm jacked along the way. Or go monk. Find a philosophy that works for you. It isn't rocket science. In fact, it's just common sense. But as you'll see, common sense is uncommon when you're talking about a guy doing what's best for him. The very concept is so foreign to most people that they scratch their heads and say, "What? You mean you don't want to have a woman to take care of? You're just going to do whatever you want?" Radical concept, I know. But yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. After a brief review of feminism, I'll address several topics that I feel are relevant. I put feminism first because it's the underlying cause of so many problems, and understanding those issues will put subsequent information in the proper context. I want to acknowledge up front that others have already covered much of the information presented here. All men owe a debt of gratitude to them. There are a lot of knowledgeable men out there spreading the word, and it's having a marked effect. I hope to expand on the many topics that frequently come up in the community while also making some new points. If somebody misses an important issue in other formats, then I hope they find it here, and vice versa. If I can help even one man realize that he has a real solution, then it will have been worth the effort. And that's the end of the introduction. If you made it this far, you must have figured this was worth listening to. If so, hit the thumbs up. In fact, give a thumbs up to all MGTOW videos. Also, hit subscribe along with the little notification bell, and you'll get a heads up when I put out the next video. Until next time, thanks for listening, and have a great day.